Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. And today this will be an update for the Warbringer Shield Wall Warcry that I've been playing for the last couple of days now. And I've done a few updates to the build since the last video, notably trying to get the defenses up a little bit more and trying to get more damage, because it's kind of hard to add more damage to this build purely because you're just using the shield and there's not many damage for shield notables in the tree. So it was a bit of a challenge, and also the fact that we had to make the build feel as smooth as possible, and so we had to try and find a way to add a lot of attack speed onto the build. But at the moment I feel like it's in a very good state and we can actually clear maps very easily and comfortably. And also we've added a new item to the build that makes it so that we can actually have the potential to screen clear rather than just clearing around us, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But right now the build is currently sitting at level 91. I've been getting quite a few deaths now because the game just seems to want to crash sometimes, and also if you get hit by a lot in one go. But it's still very tanky, even though my resistances are still very scuffed, and the reason being is because of the boots, which I'll talk about later on. So like I mentioned in the previous video, we are using the surrounded tech with constricting command, and I actually managed to get this to max roll. I just divined my previous one, it took about 3 divines, so kind of got lucky there. If you were to buy this right now, it's currently sitting at, let's have a look, it's currently sitting at around 530 exalts, so it is very expensive. But what you can do is you can just try and buy the cheapest one that you can get, non-corrupted of course, and then just try and divine it yourself. Right now divines are very cheap, they're going for around 70 divines at the moment, so if you get lucky then you won't have to pay the full price for a max roll one. So I'm just going to talk about the gear that I'm currently using. Right now, the mace, all I did was try to find the most physical damage on a one-handed mace as I can. And then for the suffixes, it didn't really matter what it had, because you're able to slam the +4 very easily. And then any other 2 suffixes that you have can just work. The chance to gain onslaught on killing hits doesn't actually work when you use shield slam. And I think that's because we're not actually using this weapon to kill stuff, and so it doesn't actually proc. It does proc off the forge hammer sometimes, so when you are just using your forge hammer every now and then, it will sometimes proc the onslaught. But as for just using shield wall, this mod is kind of irrelevant. So if you can, see if you can find one with attack speed, or leech, or strength. Any of those will be really good for the build. For the helmet, obviously we're using constricting command. For the chest piece, I just opted to get as much armor on it as possible. And I also got the base that gives us elemental damage reduction from our armor, and I've also got that on my suffixes as well. And then just trying to find one with as much life as you can and some resistances. Resistances, as you can see, is very tight on this build right now, and I'm still trying to figure a way to solve this without having to use the runes on the gear, but that's just something I need to try and solve once I get more currency. For that amulet, we're using one with plus level to all melee skills. Right now I'm using a +2. +3s are very expensive right now with good rolls, so right now I've got a +2 with maximum life. I've got armor on this. Kind of got lucky when I was buying this. I got it for very cheap. And then we want some attributes, preferably to all attributes, because we are needing to meet some dex and int requirements for some of our support gems, and then some resistances. And then for the last suffix, I just slammed a desecrated mod on it and see what I got. Luckily I got increased armor from equipped body armor, which is nice, but it's also nice to get some resistances. And also I think there are a couple of good other mods for suffixes from a desecrated mod, but right now the armor is very much appreciated for more defenses obviously. For the shield, we just want as much armor on this as possible, because the more armor we have on the shield, the more damage that we do with shield wall. And then obviously try to find one with life. I couldn't get one unfortunately. I did have one with life, but the suffixes on this are just way better, and I don't really want to risk trying to remove the thorns on this one right now. So the suffixes on this one, just try to get some resistances. I've opted to get the chaos damage reduction from our armor as well, and also if you can find resistances on this one, then it's very good for it as well. For the rings, this is where I got my leech from. So one has leech for life and one has leech for mana. This is basically where I tried to get as much resistances as I can. So I've currently got chaos rares, cold rares, and obviously you can get life on this as well. And for this one, same story. This one's got some physical damage to attacks, but obviously if you can't get this, then don't worry about it too much. You want life on your rings and resistances, and obviously the leech. That's pretty much it. For the gloves, Same kind of story, you want life with resistances. These gloves are not so great right now because we're kind of missing a lot of life, and the gain life per enemy killed is kind of irrelevant for us. It is good to have, but since we're using leech, it doesn't really matter if we have this or not. But I'm going to need to replace these anyway, so we're just going to be using this for the time being. For the belt, I've opted to get a plate belt for the armor implicit. Ideally you want to have 2 charm slots for this one, so you have all 3. Right now I only have 1, and I will divine this eventually, because right now these are kind of expensive to get with the mods that I'm using, so I will eventually try to get this to 2 slot. For the prefixes, you want as much life as you can, and armor if you can, and suffixes, 2 or 3 resistances with good rolls will work. I've got 2 resistances right now with strength, and the strength is just there to give us more life, so you can obviously just opt for a triple resistances belt if you can with high life. That will work as well. And for the boots, I've changed my boots since the last build, but I will occasionally change my boots back to that one when I'm doing bosses. But for mapping, Trample Toe is very hard to beat. What this does is that it deals 30% of overkill damage to enemies within 2 meters of the enemy that you kill. Meaning that since we're doing massive hits with our shield wall and its shotguns, it has the potential to kill everything in your screen if the enemies are close enough to each other. So this is actually very good for breaches, for abysses, because you just shotgun everything and everything in your screen just dies. Obviously it has the potential to also off screen, but the mobs will have to be very close to each other for that to happen. But during mapping, Trample Toe is very good. So this is the reason why my resistances are a bit scuffed right now, because obviously these boots don't give any. But for mapping, these are very nice to have. And for our charms, we've just got some freeze immune and also slow immune. Being slowed in this build is the worst because obviously it reduces your action speed, and so we want to try and avoid that as much as we can. So we're using this charm, and I would say this is very mandatory for the build. So one of the main things that we added to this build is being able to gain endurance charges, and the reason why I opted for that is because we are now using charge regulation for one of our persistent buffs, and what this does is that it gives us more defenses while we have an endurance charge. So right now it's sitting at 18%, this can go up to 20% at level 19, but I just don't meet the dex and int requirement right now. And it's just a nice addition to the build. We don't really need a lot of things for our persistent buffs, since we were just using Herald of Ash and Warbanner. And so this was kind of a no-brainer to just fit into the build. And how we actually get our endurance charge is in our shield wall, we are now using Armor Break 3, which says 20% chance to gain an endurance charge when supported skills fully break armor. And since we are a Warbringer, we can break armor very easily with our hits. So when you're just mapping and you do your shield wall combo, it is pretty much guaranteed that you will get at least 1 endurance charge per pack, and you can just maintain that for the entirety of the map. So as for the other support gems, nothing much has changed. We are still running Brutality 3, Physical Mastery, Heft, Rage Forged, which I still can't really figure out if it works or not, but we're using it anyway, and then obviously Armor Break 3. For our Fortifying Cry is a little bit odd, because for us to use the shield wave part of this gem, we need to be able to gain power, and pressing our Fortifying Cry before our shield wall and then to another cry, it's just kind of slow for me, and so I'm not actually able to use the shield wave consistently with this gem, but it doesn't really matter anyway because it's still good, because we still gain our guard when we use it around mobs. And obviously sometimes we get enough power to be able to empower our next shield wall when we're mapping, but don't rely on this to be using shield wave, because it's just not worth it to gain power and then use shield wall and then explode it. I feel like that's just way too slow. You just kill a lot of things very quickly anyway with just using shield wall and then using your Warcry, so I don't see any reason to add another step to that combo. And so we're not supporting this with anything major. We've still got Efficiency 2, Physical Mastery, we've got Heavy Swing, but that's just because this doesn't add any more mana cost to the skill, and Magnified Area for increased area of effect. We're also still using Forge Hammer, but this is just to obviously just have a little bit more damage. We're just using Fist of War 2, Rapid Attacks 2, and Cooldown Recovery 2 for this one. You can use this to proc the Onslaught on your weapon if you have it, but I wouldn't rely on it as it is very inconsistent. For War Banner we have Prolonged Duration, Increased Area of Effect, Dureso's Passion, which is really good for when you're fighting a Pinnacle boss, because it means that you need less glory to be able to use your War Banner, but for mapping you'll be killing a lot of stuff anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant during that. And Refraction, just so we have some elemental damage reduction when we do have our War Banner active. And then we have Charge Regulation, we don't have anything to support this. And then last but not least we have Herald of Ash, and we're just adding +1 to this and also some Area of Effect. So the tree hasn't changed much since the last video. Obviously we've tried to gain some more damage and defenses into this build. And so we've removed some of the stuff that are kind of redundant and added it onto somewhere else. For example, we've now removed the one-handed nodes up here because this does not affect our shield wall since we're using our shield to do damage. And we've also removed the Warcry cluster down here because we don't need this anymore. And because we removed those, we've put them somewhere else obviously. So the most important thing that we needed to try and sort out was the lack of attack speed that we had. And so we've just added this cluster over here for more attack speed. It's got some reduction to slowing potency as well, so it's pretty decent to have, and it's very close to archery anyway. And also down here for more attack speed, and this also gives us a chance to blind as well. And for the rest we've added this as well, and this is so that we can just have more life into the build. Like I said before, our life is kind of in the low end right now, so this is very useful for now. And then the rest of the nodes have just gone into small passive nodes around the surrounded nodes. So we've got the armor here, we've got attack damage here, and more armor and more attack over here as well. And then obviously we're still chill immune due to crystallized immunities. So I'm just going to showcase the build real quick in a map, and we are going to do a breach with irradiated, with abyss, and also a corrupted map. And we're just running a tier 15 with 8 mods just to see how it feels. This does have more life as well, so let's see how it goes. There might be a chance that I just completely fold in this map, but we'll see. As you can see, it pretty much kills everything in one combo. The only thing that you need to worry about obviously is trying to avoid a lot of the stuff, because it might actually kill you. Like the degen for Abyss is very annoying to deal with, so you're gonna have to try and move out of it as quickly as you can. And as you can see, Trample Toe is doing wonders for this build because it's actually doing some off-screen clearing as well, as long as the mobs are very close to each other. Also, the one thing that is kind of missed when you're using shield wall is that when you put a shield wall up, it will block a lot of projectiles that's in front of you, and it takes a while for them to break it. Obviously, when it's a rare monster doing massive AoEs, sometimes it does break it does just break, but a lot of the times it does actually help you out in terms of avoiding a lot of the hits. So the build is not the fastest build in the world, but obviously we are a warrior, so that's kind of a given. So now we're about to hit a breach, which is inside the abyss, finally. It's not the best map in the world to have a breach, but it's fine. So now I've actually been able to get a lot more attack speed to make the build very comfortable during mapping. We're not as sluggish as we were before. The shield wall comes up very quickly, and so it actually feels very nice when you're going up against a lot of mobs because you can immediately dispatch of them in one combo. And also, as you can see, my mana goes down very quickly, but since we have some Swords of Mana Leech, it goes up immediately to full when you're mapping. In bosses, it's not much of an issue either, but this is why having Mana Leech on your build somewhere is very mandatory. If you can get it on your gloves, obviously, if you can get it on your rings, obviously that's nice as well, but it doesn't really matter where you get it from as long as you have some source of Mana Leech. And at least, if it's at least around 4.5%, then that's perfectly fine because we're doing a lot of big hits with physical anyway, so also another thing that's nice about being a Warbringer is that the explode on your Warcry actually comes in clutch sometimes. Because since you're killing a lot of the stuff, if stuff respawns on top of those mobs, then you can just press your Warcry again and the explosion will pretty much delete anything that's remaining. So it's pretty good. And there we go, that was quite a quick map. Obviously it wasn't really of a great map to do breaches, but as you can see it is very good for doing abysses as well. As long as you're able to kill one pack, it will immediately shotgun, and since we're using Tramp Auto, it will potentially do off screen as well, so there we go. And that's about it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm very close to hitting 500 subscribers, so subscribing will definitely help me out. And also, if you still got any other questions, feel free to put them down in the comments below and I'll still happily answer them. And if you still got any other suggestions, also put it down there and I'll be willing to try and add them to the build. Once again, thank you very much. I'll see you guys next time.